Dean's small cargo ship trembled as sparks danced across the control panel. Alarms screamed in his ears. He slammed buttons and pulled levers, but the ship didn't listen. The storm outside had come out of nowhere. Sensors failed. The sky turned black, filled with electric clouds that cracked with green lightning. "Hold together," Baby Dean whispered, gripping the controls tight. The ship spun out of orbit, engines coughing, until it finally crashed with a thunderous slam onto a planet he had never seen before. Everything went dark. He woke up with pain in his ribs and a ringing in his ears. Blinking against the sun above, he slowly sat up in the shattered cockpit. The sky was orange, filled with strange clouds. The air was breathable, but heavy. Thick trees surrounded the crash site, each one tall and twisted, with glowing vines hanging from the branches. His ship was broken. One wing buried in the mud, the other snapped off. Smoke rose from the engine, and the communication unit was destroyed. No signal could get out. "Great," he muttered. "Just great." Dean grabbed a small bag of supplies, a survival kit, and stepped out. The ground was soft, covered in moss that squished under his boots. It smelled like rain and wildflowers. He could hear odd sounds, low growls, chirps, and distant roars. He wasn't alone on this planet. Days passed. Dean survived by eating ration bars and collecting rainwater. He built a fire pit with rocks and tried to repair the ship, but most parts were melted or lost. He used a knife to carve tools, but they barely helped. Every night, he sat near the fire, hoping someone would pass by and see the smoke. One night, the storm returned. Heavy rain poured down, and wind tore through the trees. His small tent collapsed, soaking him in seconds. He tried to hold it together, but a strong gust lifted it into the sky. "Come on," he shouted as he stumbled through. The rain, lightning flashed. He heard a growl, deep, strong, and close. He turned, heart pounding, holding a branch like a weapon. A shape stood just beyond the trees. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, with glowing yellow eyes. It had fur like a wolf, but its body was more like a person. Long arms, clawed hands, and a sharp snout. Its eyes narrowed at him. He froze. The beast stepped forward. He braced for an attack, but it didn't come. Instead, it growled low, then turned and walked away slowly. It stopped once, looking back, as if it wanted him to follow. Dean didn't know why, but something in him said yes. Maybe it was the cold, maybe the fear, maybe the strange kindness in those eyes. He followed. The creature led him through the forest, under glowing plants and twisting branches, until they reached a rocky cliff. There, hidden behind stones, was a cave. It was warm inside, dry, safe. The creature grunted and pointed to a soft patch of moss. Dean sat, shivering, and whispered, "Thank you." The beast didn't reply, but sat across from him. It lit a fire with strange stones and dry roots. The light showed more of her. Her fur was dark brown with lighter patches on her arms and shoulders. Her eyes were golden, glowing gently. Her body was strong, yet not threatening. The claws on her fingers were sharp but not raised. She pulled out a bundle of roots and a strange fruit, placing them near the fire. Soon, the cave smelled sweet. "You cook?" Dean asked, surprised. She tilted her head, didn't answer. But her eyes seemed amused. Days passed. Dean stayed in the cave while he healed. The beast girl, he started calling her, Leary didn't speak much, not in his language. But she made food, shared warmth, and protected him. When he wandered out, she followed to keep him safe. One morning, he woke up to a sweet scent. Leary was crouched near the fire, mixing some paste in a flat stone bowl. She shaped small, round things and placed them over hot stones. The smell was like honey and fruit. "Is that a dessert?" Dean asked, eyes wide. Leary didn't answer, but pushed one toward him when it cooled. He took a bite. His eyes lit up. It was sweet, soft in the middle, slightly crispy on the edges. Warm and comforting. "This is amazing," he said, grinning. "Like a cookie, kind of." Leary made a soft noise of purr. Almost Dan sat beside him, watching his face as he chewed. She seemed proud. He looked at her again, Not just a wild creature, not just a beast. She was someone. Someone who cared. He smiled. Thank you, Leary. She blinked, then touched her chest. Leary, she said clearly. He nodded. Yes, Leary, I'm Dean. She pointed at him. Dean. Close enough. They sat there in silence, sharing the sweet treat, the fire between them. And for the first time since the crash, Dean didn't feel alone. He looked at Leary, really looked at her. Maybe she didn't look like anyone he knew. Maybe she had claws and fur. But she had more heart then. Anyone he had met in years, he didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But tonight he had warmth and something sweet. Dean woke up to the sound of soft humming. He sat up and saw Leary crouch near the fire again, mixing something in her stone bowl. She added dried fruit, crushed seeds, and some kind of sticky sap. The cave still smelled sweet. He watched her work with careful hands, claws moving gently, like she had done this many times before. He smiled and said, "Another batch of cookies?" Leary looked at him, tilted her head, and nodded once. "Ku, ki," she repeated slowly. His eyes widened. "You're learning English?" She didn't answer, but gave a small smile and pointed to her mouth, then to him. "Talk, DN," he chuckled. "Yeah, Dean. That's me." Each day since the storm, they had shared more than just food. Dean tried to teach her simple words, like water, fire, tree, sleep. She was a fast learner. Leary used gestures and short words in her own language to help him understand her too. He learned that Leary lived alone. She didn't speak much about others, but one time she pointed at the stars and growled something that sounded sad. Her ears drooped. Dean guessed she had lost someone or had been left behind. He didn't press. He just sat close to her and said, "I'm here now." They spent their days hunting for parts near the crash site. Leary would guide him through the forest, avoiding dangerous places and strange creatures. She moved like a shadow, quick and silent. She taught Dean how to spot traps, how to gather fruit safely, and how to stay low when the big red-eyed lizards passed by one afternoon. They found part of the broken antenna under a fallen tree. Dean's eyes lit up. "This could help us send a signal." Leary didn't understand the words, but saw his excitement and helped him carry it back. At the cave, Dean worked on the antenna, using wires from his toolkit and a power cell he had hidden in his survival bag. It was slow work, but possible.
Leary
Sat nearby, watching, handing him tools when he asked. Sometimes, she even fixed things faster than he could. "You're smarter than you look," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. Leary snorted softly and poked his side with her claw. "Hey," he laughed, gently pushing her hand away. As the days passed, something changed. It's not just in their communication, but in how they looked at each other. One evening, after Dean managed to power up a small beacon, he danced around the cave. "We might have a signal. It's weak, but it's something." Leary clapped her hands, copying his movement. Then she leaned forward and placed another baked sweet in his hand. It was warm, softer this time, with tiny sparkberries inside. Dean bit into it and sighed. "You spoil me," he said. She purred again and sat closer than usual, her shoulder touching his. She looked at him for a long moment. Her golden eyes weren't just glowing. They were soft, careful, full of something he didn't expect. He felt his chest tighten. "You're amazing," he said quietly. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Leary reached out and touched his hand. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. But just then, a loud howl echoed through the trees. Lirri stood up fast, eyes sharp. She moved to the cave entrance, sniffed the air, and growled low in her throat. Dean followed, heart beating faster. "What is it?" Didn't answer, but motioned for him to stay inside. Then she disappeared into the trees. Dean waited, pacing. He hated not knowing. He hated sitting still. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Finally, Leary returned. Her fur was wet with rain. Her arm had a scratch. She dropped something on the floor, a strange skull with sharp fangs. "What is that?" Dean asked. She didn't explain, just grunted and collapsed on the moss floor, breathing hard. Dean rushed to her side, cleaned the wound, and wrapped her arm with cloth from his bag. She winced, but didn't pull away. He sat beside her through the night, guarding her like she had guarded him. When morning came, she was better. Not fully healed, but strong enough to sit up. "Thank you," he whispered. "Lur." I looked at him. "Dean's safe," he smiled. "Because of you." She leaned closer and touched her forehead to his. It was a strange gesture, but it felt like a hug, or maybe something more. Dean closed his eyes and stayed like that for a moment, the warmth of her forehead against his own. The next few days they worked together to raise the antenna higher on the cliff. Dean built a small platform while Leary helped carry rocks and clear branches. Finally, the beacon blinked a weak pulse, but one. "That might reach a patrol ship." "Now we wait," he said, setting it to repeat LIRR. I didn't look happy. She stared at the beacon, then at him. "Leave?" she asked slowly. He paused. He hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know," he said. "I want to get home, but now, home didn't feel the same without her." Leary nodded. Slowly, then stood and walked back to the cave. That night, she didn't bake. She didn't speak much either. Dean sat beside her, silent, staring at the fire. He looked at her, not as a beast, not even as an alien, but as someone who had shared her world with him, and maybe, just maybe, shared her heart too. Dean sat alone near the fire, watching the small beacon light blink in the distance. The wind howled outside the cave, but inside it was quiet, too quiet. Leary hadn't spoken much since the beacon went up. She sat with her back to him, sharpening a bone tool. Her ears stayed low, her eyes distant. He knew what she was thinking. The signal meant someone might come for him. It also meant he might leave. "Leary," he said softly. She didn't turn. He stood and walked over, sitting beside her on the moss-covered floor. "You've been quiet." Leary finally looked at him. "You go soon."
Out.
He nodded. "Maybe." If they hear the signal, she stared at the tool in her hand. "Dean home." "Yeah," he said, voice low. "But this place started to feel like home too." Leary blinked, confused. He smiled a little. "Because you're here." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, without a word, she stood and left the cave. Dean didn't follow this time. He could feel the storm inside her, just like he felt it in himself. Part of him wanted to leave, to see Earth again. But the other part didn't want to leave her behind. The next morning, found something near the fire. A small sweetbread, shaped like a heart. He picked it up slowly, staring at it. It wasn't perfect, misshapen, and a little burnt, but it smelled sweet, like her effort, like her care, like her feelings. He looked around, but Leary wasn't there. He took a bite, warm, soft, just like the first time. Suddenly, I heard a cry from outside. He dropped the bread and rushed toward the sound. I found Leary near the trees, facing a creature. Twice her size, it had black scales, horns, and green eyes that burned like fire. It was one of the predators she had warned him about. Dean shouted, "Leary!" The beast charged. Leary jumped aside, slashing with her claws, but it struck her, with its thick tail knocking her into a tree. She grunted in pain, without thinking. Dean grabbed a burning stick from the campfire and ran straight at the monster. "Get away from her," he yelled. The creature turned, surprised by the small human's boldness. It swung a claw at him, but he ducked and thrust the burning stick into its eye. The beast roared in pain and ran off into the forest. Dean rushed to Leary's side. "Are you okay?" She coughed and tried to stand, but her leg was bleeding. Double quotes, "No, no, don't move," he said, gently helping her sit. He tore a piece of cloth from his shirt and wrapped it around her wound. Leary looked at him, her breathing slow. "You? Fight for me?" he smiled. "Of course I did." Her eyes softened. She reached out and touched his cheek. "Dean, brave." He laughed a little. "I was just scared." "Still brave," she whispered. They sat there until her breathing calmed. Then he helped her back into the cave. She leaned on him, her weight heavy but familiar. As she lay on the soft moss, he stayed by her side. "Why did you go alone?" he asked. She looked at the fire, then at him. "Wanted," she said slowly. "Dean Hart, go far. Me stay. Hurt." His chest tightened. "Leary, I don't want to leave you," she blinked. "But you must." He took her hand gently. "Maybe not. Maybe I don't have to." Leary stared at him, unsure. He leaned closer. "You saved me. You fed me. You taught me how to live here. And you made me feel like I matter. I don't want to lose that." Leary closed her eyes, then opened them slowly. "I made Kooky," she whispered. He chuckled softly. "Yeah, and you made me feel something warm inside." She touched his chest, right where his heart was. "Me too." The night passed slowly, filled with quiet breathing and the soft sound of the wind. The next day, Leary could walk again with a limp. Dean helped her gather fruit and wood. They worked side by side like before, but now everything felt deeper. Quieter, stronger, sometime in the afternoon. The beacon blinked faster. A signal had been received. He stared at it, heart pounding. "They're coming," he said. "Lear." I looked at the light. Her shoulders dropped slightly. "Soon," she whispered. That night, she didn't bake. Instead, she sat near him and watched the stars. Leaned against him, her fur warm on his arm. "If you go," she said slowly, "you remember me?" He looked at her. "I could never forget you." Leary smiled a little. Then she reached into a pouch on her belt and pulled out a small necklace made from crystals and soft fur. She placed it around his neck. "Gift," she said. "For Dean." He touched the necklace, surprised. "This is beautiful," she nodded. "Like my heart." He felt tears rise in his eyes, but blinked them away. "I'll wear it always." They sat together under the stars, quiet, close, and unsure of what tomorrow would bring, but for tonight they were together, and neither of them wanted it to end. The next morning, Dean stood near the edge of the cliff, watching the blinking light of the beacon. The pattern had changed. Now, it was steady, meaning someone had locked onto it. A rescue ship was on its way. He didn't feel happy. His hands rested on the necklace Leary had given him. He remembered her words like my heart. And now that he might leave, it felt like he was carrying her heart with him, only to take it away. He turned as Leary walked toward him. She still limped a little, but her posture was strong. She held something in her hands, a small wooden box tied with dried vines. "This is for you," she said in her slow, careful English. "Another gift?" Dean asked, trying to smile. She nodded. "Open later." "After you go?" His chest ached. "You want me to leave?" Leary looked at the sky. "Not want, but no must." He shook his head. "No. I don't know if I have to." She blinked. "Dean, you human, your sky. Big. Your people wait." He looked out at the horizon. "Maybe. But they don't wait for me like you do." Leary was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "If you stay, no more Earth. No more skyships." He chuckled lightly. "Yeah, just you. And strange fruits and beast monsters." She gave a soft growl. "And cookies." He laughed. Then slowly stepped toward her. "And cookies," he said again, softer. For a few minutes they stood together saying nothing. Only the wind moved, brushing the leaves gently. But then a sound came, one that didn't belong to the forest. A low humming, the sky shimmered. A ship broke through the clouds, sleek and gray, with blue lights under its wings. It slowed down and hovered above the cliffs. A human voice crackled through Dean's device. "Unidentified signal received. This is patrol vessel Nightwind. Survivor detected. Preparing to land." Out. Leary stepped back. Dean turned to her. "Wait. Don't go." Her ears twitched. "Your people may fear me. Then I'll protect you." He moved toward her again, but she took another step back. "No, Dean. If you stay close, they fear more. They hurt you." "Or me." The ship lowered, and two figures stepped out, rescue officers in white armor. They walked carefully, weapons slung but not raised. They spotted Dean and waved. Survivor confirmed. One called, "You're lucky we picked this up." Dean looked back at Leary. She was half hidden behind a tree now, golden eyes watching. He didn't wave back. He walked slowly toward the officers. "Are you injured?" The taller one asked, "What's your name?" "Dean Harper," he said quietly. "No serious injuries." "Good," said the second. "You're cleared for pickup." The cargo was destroyed, but headquarters already processed it. "Let's get you home." "Wait," Dean said. "I'm not ready yet." The officers looked at each other. "We can't stay long, sir. Atmosphere's unstable. If we leave without you, there's no return window." He nodded slowly. "I need a moment," he said. They gave him a few minutes and returned to their ship. Dean turned and walked back toward the tree line. Leary stood there, half in shadow. "They want me to go now," he said. She nodded. "No." He stepped closer. "But I don't know what to do." Leary placed the small wooden box into his hands again. "Open when you miss me." "That might be right after I leave," he whispered. She touched his hand, then opened soon. Didn't want to move. Didn't want this moment to end. "What if I want to come back?" Leary tilted her head. "Then find me." He leaned down and pressed his forehead gently to hers, just like she had done before. Eyes closed, and she let out a soft sound. Not quite a growl. Not quite a purr. Just something only for him. Then she stepped back. "Double quotes go, Dean. Before sky closes." He stared at her for a moment longer, then nodded. "I'll come back," he said, "I promise." She gave a small smile. "I wait." He walked to the ship. Officers helped him in and strapped him to a seat. As they rose into the air, he looked through the window. Lirr, I stood on the cliff. Her fur blowing in the wind, eyes bright and unblinking. She didn't wave, but she didn't look away either, and that was enough. The journey back took 2 days. Dean stayed mostly silent, replying only when needed. His thoughts were full of the cave, the cookies, her laugh, her growls, her brave heart. He opened the small box when he was alone in the recovery room. Inside was a small carved figure, a tiny version of him, made from soft wood, holding a round cookie. He laughed softly, then cried. He placed the necklace around it and held it close. "I'll find you again," he whispered, "no matter what." Dean sat by the wide window of the space station, staring at the stars. It had been 3 weeks since his rescue. His body had healed, but his heart hadn't. The lights of Earth glowed below, far away and peaceful. He should have felt happy. Safe. But something was missing. His hand moved to the necklace Leary gave him. He never took it off. Around his wrist, he now wore a small cord made from the vines she had tied around the cookie box. People asked about it, but he never explained. It was his secret, his promise every night. He looked up at the sky, wondering what Leary was doing. Was she watching the stars too? Did she wait at the cliff like she said? Or had she moved on, thinking he would never return? He didn't blame her. He had no ship, no orders, no way to find that planet again. It was never marked in the charts. The coordinates had been lost during the crash. Still, he searched. He spent days in the station's archives, trying to match the star patterns he remembered. He searched logs of patrol ships, trying to find hints of the strange world. Some officers laughed. Some told him to move on. It was just survival, one said. You were alone. You made a connection. Now let it go. She wasn't just a survival memory. She was more than that. She was his friend, his protector, the one who baked for him, the one who gave her heart in the shape of a small, uneven cookie. One day, as he walked through the hangar, he saw a familiar face. Commander Talon, the officer who led the rescue team. Dean stepped forward. "Commander?" "Can I speak with you, Talon?" turned Harper. "You recovered well. What's on your mind?" "The planet where you found me." "Do you still have the logs?" Talon frowned. "Why?" "I want to go back." Talon stared at him.
"Oh, you're
serious?"
Yes.
"I left someone behind." Talon sighed. "Listen, we didn't make a full scan of that planet. It was unstable. We marked it as a no-return zone due to storms. No flight path leads there now. But the coordinates destroyed with your ship. Dean felt his hope drop. Ten looked at him again, softer this time. Why do you want to go back so badly? She saved me, Dean said. Every single day, not just my life. She saved who I was inside. I can't leave her there alone. Talon was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into a pouch and handed over a small data chip. Off the record, he said. This is my flight trail, not official. Might be useless. But if she meant something to you, try. Dean took the chip, his hand shaking. Thank you. Good luck, Harper. For the next week, Dean worked night and day. He used his savings to rent a small scout ship, just big enough for one person and long-distance travel. He called it the Heartbeat before he left. Placed the little wooden figure she had carved in the co-pilot seat. You're coming too, he said. Once in space, he followed the trail from the chip. It was long and broken, but pieces made sense. He adjusted his course again and again, chasing the memory of orange skies and glowing trees. He slept in short shifts. 8 ration bars, played Leary's voice in his head. On the 7th day, the ship's scanners picked up strange energy, just like the one near the storm that had brought him down the first time. He gripped the controls. Please be the right one, he whispered. The ship dropped out of hyperspace and entered a cloudy atmosphere. Orange sky, thick clouds, twisted trees below. His heart raced. Look, he said, eyes wide. I'm back. He landed the ship in a small clearing. Not far from the crash site, vines had grown over the old cargo wreck, now broken and quiet. Moss covered the ground where his fire had once burned. He grabbed a small pack and started walking. He followed the old trail. Through the glowing plants over the roots, around the broken trees, everything looked the same. When he reached the rocky cliff, he stopped there. Sitting by a small fire was Leary. She was older. Her fur looked a little longer. But her eyes, those golden, glowing eyes, were just the same. She stood slowly, staring at him in silence. He stepped closer. Hi, he said. Leary blinked. Her lips trembled. Dean, he nodded, smiling. I told you I'd come back. Ran to him, faster than he expected. Her arms wrapped around him tightly, claws gentle. He held her back, hugging her as tears filled his eyes. You came, she whispered. I never stopped trying, he said. She pulled back and touched his necklace. You still wear it. Every day. Leary smiled. I baked something. You still do that? She reached into a pouch and pulled out a warm, wrapped sweet. I waited. He took it slowly, eyes never leaving hers. Thank you, he said, for waiting, for everything. Leary looked at him. You stay now. He nodded. If you'll have me. She leaned her forehead against his, her voice soft and full of warmth. Always. Dean and Leary sat together on the cliff as the sunset painted the sky gold and red. The air felt warm, and for the first time in weeks, Dean's breath came easy. He had found her. That was all that mattered. Yet a quiet thought lingered. How? Would 2 lives, human and beast girl, fit together on a wild world at the edge of every star map? The answer began with small, simple choices. Dean moved the scout ship closer to the cave so its solar panels could power lights and a clean water pump. He fixed a broken metal crate into a cupboard where Leary could store her cooking supplies. She watched, curious, then fetched smooth stones to hold shelves in place. When Dean hammered metal strips into the cliff wall, Leary steadied the ladder and purred whenever a nail went straight. Teamwork felt natural. They fell into rhythm like they had never been apart. Still, the forest was full of threats. One morning, a pack of red-eyed lizards crept near their garden patch, snapping at the berry vines Leary had planted. Dean picked up a stun flare from his ship, but Leary stopped him with a gentle growl. Instead, she scattered ash from there. Fire pit in a wide line. The lizards sniffed the bitter smell, hissed, and slithered away. Leary grinned, saying one new English word she liked. Clever. In the evenings, Dean read old stories from his datapad. Leary sat close, tail curled around her ankles, listening to tales of oceans and snow and crowded city lights. Sometimes she repeated words that sounded musical to her: seagull, carousel, rainbow. Each repetition made Dean smile. In return, Leary taught him her people's song of the twin moons. She tapped a rhythm on a hollow log while she sang low and soft. Dean did not understand the lyrics, but he understood the longing inside them. Days slipped by, stitched together with small victories. Dean planted beans, Leary carved rain gutters, and both of them repaired the beacon so it could serve as a simple weather tower, warning them of the unstable storms. During one stormy night, lightning cracked a nearby tree. Dean rushed out, tugging at a fallen branch that threatened their roof. The wind roared, rain stung, and mud pulled at his boots. Leary bounded through the dark, lifted the branch with her strong shoulders, and tossed it aside. When they collapsed inside the cave afterward, soaked and shivering, Dean wrapped a blanket around them both. Leary's quiet, happy hum vibrated through his chest until the thunder faded. As the homestead grew, so did their bond. One morning, Leary guided Dean to a grove where blue flowers glowed like tiny lanterns. She knelt and dug up thick bulbs hidden under the soil. "Sweet," she explained. Back at the fire, she mixed the bulbs with crushed nuts and dried fruit, shaping the dough into spirals. The smell floated through the cave, warm and welcoming. When Dean tasted the new treat, his eyes lit up. "This is the best yet," he said around a mouthful. Leary's ears perked. "Name?" she asked shyly. Dean thought, then nodded. "Let's call them star rolls, 'cause they taste like the night." "Sky looks bright and hopeful," Leary repeated. "Star rolls," and giggled, pleased. One afternoon, while Dean repaired a solar array, spotted a sleek shuttle streaking across the sky. Human design, its engines whispering against the clouds. Dread tightened his stomach. He did not broadcast a distress code, but someone must have traced his rented Scout's jump logs. If they landed, would they take him away? Would they try to capture Leary, calling her an unknown species that belonged in a lab? The shuttle circled once, then veered off toward open plain. Dean exhaled, relief rushing through him, but the moment shook him awake. He climbed down and found Leary trimming branches near the garden. "We need a plan," he said gently. She tilted her head. "Trouble? Maybe. More humans might come."
"Oh."
"I won't let them hurt you or our home." Leary placed her hand over the necklace on his chest. "You protect each other," she said. Together, they hid most of the technology inside a rock shelter. Dean deployed a signal scrambler so stray scans would read only empty wilderness.
"Out."
Leary wove low fences of thorny vines that guided larger beasts away without harm. They were ready, just in case. Nights grew cooler as the planet's short winter approached. Dean set up a small heater from the scout ship, but Leary insisted on teaching him her people's way of warming stone beds. They gathered flat rocks, heated them in the fire, and slid them under thick moss mats. Every bedtime felt like sinking into gentle earth warmth. Dean, used to metal bunks and recycled air, found himself falling asleep faster than he ever had. In deep space, one cold dawn, he woke to find Leary watching the horizon, her fur tipped with frost. The twin moons hung low, one silver, one pale blue. Dean wrapped a blanket around her shoulders and followed her gaze. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "Future," she said. "My clan gone, but new clan here." She touched his hand. Hope swelled inside him. "We could invite others someday," he offered. "Humans who respect this world. Maybe survivors from your people too." Leary nodded slowly. "Safe hearts only." "Safe hearts," he agreed. They spent that day building a tall stone marker on the cliff, half lighthouse, half welcome sign. Dean welded a gentle beacon light at the top green instead of rescue red. Green meant peace. Approach if you come as friend. Leary painted symbols around the base, spirals for sharing, stars for guidance, and a small cookie shape nestled among them. Dean laughed softly when he spotted it. "Our family crest," he joked. Leary grinned wide. "Sweet forever." At sunset, they lit the beacon. Its green glow swept across the forest, over the wrecked cargo ship, and into the sky. Dean squeezed Leary's hand as the first fireflies drifted around them. Silence settled, not empty, but full the comfortable hush of a place finally becoming home later. They perched on their favorite ledge, sharing star rolls and watching the beacon rotate. Dean took a slow breath. "Do you ever regret saving me?" he asked quietly. I turned, surprise in her eyes. "No. You saved me too." "How?" She touched the little wooden figure he had placed nearby, now standing on the ledge. "Before you, I only survived." Now, tears prickled behind Dean's eyes. He tilted his head until it rested against hers. Fur brushed. Skin, warm and real. "Then let's keep living," he said. She answered with a gentle purr. The night deepened. Distant storms flashed at the horizon. Their hills stayed calm beneath the steady green light. Dean thought of Earth, of cities, and steel towers of people always rushing. He realized he didn't miss them the way he once had. His world was here now, a cave filled with soft moss, the taste of sweetbread. The sound of Leary's voice practicing English while she worked dough between clawed fingers. Months would pass. Challenges would rise from forest and sky alike. But every sunrise would find two shapes, side by side, one human, one beast girl, carving a shared story into the wild. And every night the beacon and a plate of star rolls would remind them of one simple truth, sometimes crashing on an unknown planet is just the beginning of finding where your heart truly belongs.